Kris Krohn here with Limitless TV, and today we're talking about embarrassment and shame. Oh my gosh, there's a pandemic in the country because when we get stuck in the cycle of shame and guilt and embarrassment, guess what? We sometimes can't pull out of it. And I've got guest mentor today, Marianne Denovelis, that is going to be sharing with you the number one secret of how you exit embarrassment, how you exit shame, so that you can go on living your life happy, excited, and fulfilled.
Let's talk about embarrassment. It's a word that we're all familiar with, and usually when you think of embarrassment, you think, gosh, middle school, right? Maybe you think something you did with as a kid. Maybe you think about something that just happened yesterday. I want to talk about embarrassment and shame, why they get in our way and why they don't need to. You see, embarrassment and shame, they're kind of the same thing. In fact, if you look up embarrassment in the dictionary, you're going to find the word shame. Here's my take on embarrassment and shame. Embarrassment and shame, they're the same thing, right? It's because we care about what people think about us. You know, we get embarrassed because of someone else's perception. They might think less of us if they knew or saw this certain thing about us. Let me share with you a story that came to my mind when I thought about embarrassment. Okay, so I'm a mom. I have 5 amazing kids. And one day, my daughter comes home from school and says this word that I didn't want to hear. And it's not what you think. It's not one of those 4-letter words. We talked about that, covered that, no problem. But she said a different 4-letter word. You know what she said? Lice. When I heard that, this whole flood of stigma just overwhelmed me, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to be seen as one of those families that's dirty and gross, and how can you get lice to go away? And I've heard stories, and what are we going to do? We're going to be the ostracized family. We're going to be shunned from our community. We're not going to be able to go to our community meetings, our church meetings, our school meetings because we're the lice family, right? What if word gets out? What are people going to think? And so I got to tell you, I spent hours combing over my daughter's hair and looking for these little monsters and their eggs and their nits. And now I know what nitpick means, because we get nitpicky, it means you have to go through all of the tiny hairs on a person's head and look for these little tiny grains of rice/lice that infect. And it drove me crazy. But here's what I learned. I was at first really afraid to share with anyone what our family was experiencing. It's not a life-threatening thing. It didn't cause incredible amounts of pain and sorrow, but it did have a stigma with it. It did have this weight, this baggage with it. And at first I really didn't want to share anyone what we were doing. But it got to the point where I had to spend so much time focused on it that it occupied my mind all the time. And I had a choice to make. I could either become upset and feel shame, or I could just be okay. When it comes to embarrassment and shame, the reason we develop it is because we really have more caring about what people think. The reason we become obsessed with it is because we care what people think more than we do about what we think. You see, when my daughter got lice, it became all about her. And as a mom, I could have easily said, you know, you're not allowed to touch, you're not allowed to do this. And imagine what a daughter would feel like that. And imagine what a 5-year-old would interpret when a mom says, you're not allowed to do A, B, C, and D, and you have to be holed up in your room until we know this is completely out of our system. And if it's, 2 weeks into it and you have to start over, then we have to start over another 2 weeks. It could be totally condemning and shaming for them. And in fact, when my other daughter got it, that's how she felt. She burst into tears because she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to talk to her friends anymore. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to interact with people at all because of this stigma that surrounded it. And I thought, you know what? No, I'm the mom here. I get to be the one that facilitates this lesson, and I get to be the one that says, you know what, this is not the way you have to be. Because there's a lifelong lesson that you're going to learn right here in this moment. It's not about the embarrassment. It's not about the lies. It's about who you choose to be. And so I sat down with her and I asked her, girlfriend, what do you want to feel right now? Do you want to feel icky? Do you want to feel ashamed? Do you want to feel bad? And she said, well, no, that's not going to work for me. And I said, great, what do you want to feel? Because this is an opportunity. Everything in your life that presents the opportunity is an opportunity for shame and embarrassment or for stepping up your game. and getting real and becoming who you are, to finding out who you're meant to be. So I asked her, I said, what do you want to become of this experience? She said, I just want to love myself. So this opportunity went from an opportunity of shame to an opportunity where mom and daughter get to spend hours together talking and relating. And yeah, this problem brought us together, but it wasn't really a problem because we made a solution out of it. When it comes to pride and shame, here's the bottom line. Pride and shame are optional. They are optional. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You don't have emotions happen to you. You select them. That means you pick them out. That means when a certain circumstance comes into your field of view, you get to decide what it means for you. I have a circumstance. Am I going to feel shame over it? Yes or no? I have this space between stimulus and response. There's a book that I would highly recommend reading, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And in there, there's the story of this man. Imagine someone who was in World War II in a concentration camp, stripped of his dignity, stripped of his clothes, stripped of his food, stripped of his title. Maybe he was a doctor, maybe, who knows? But he was just down to bare skin and bones, quite literally. And here's what he said. There's a space between stimulus and response. That is the space that defines a man. That is the space that defines you. Maybe your circumstance happens to be something that people would be embarrassed about. What does it get to mean for you? That determines your response. How are you going to respond when something shows up that could be embarrassing? Are you going to cow down and say, oh, that was so embarrassing. I hope never to be seen in public again. I hope no one ever noticed that was me. I hope that no one saw that because they might think I'm less of a person. Guess what? It's probably happened to 90% of the people out there anyway. And the more you speak up about it, the more comfortable you'll feel and the more comfortable they're going to feel. We live in a society where taboos happen, where there's these hushed topics where you don't talk about it. And guess what? If you don't talk, who's going to? If you don't stand up and say, this is my experience, this is how I grew from it, this is how I became better, then other voices are going to talk instead. You know, as a mom, I really want to be in charge of how my child sees the world. Call it crazy if you will, but I know that there's some things about my children that I want them to learn from me rather than from someone else. That gets to be your stand. You get to be the one that decides what it looks like for you and give permission to all of those around you to learn something better about a circumstance. This is your decision time. I want to share something with you about pride and shame as it relates to each other. We talked about embarrassment before, but pride and shame, they're actually two sides of the same coin. Shame says, I'm less of a person because of my circumstance. I'm less compared to you. Pride says, I'm more of a person in my circumstance or because of my circumstance, and I'm more of a person because of you. They're two sides to the same coin. So what is the solution? What's the solution to getting rid of embarrassment? What is the solution to getting rid of shame? And what is the solution to getting rid of pride once and for all? Let me give you the secret key. And I got news for you. It's not really a secret. It's something that we were born with. The solution is love. Call it crazy, call it hippie tree hugger, call it whatever you want. The solution is self-love, and here's what I mean by that. Love means commitment to my success. So when a circumstance comes along, how am I committed to my success in this circumstance? Let's take, for example, you trip and fall, and you're on stage in front of 500 people, or maybe you're in middle school and you take a hit. How do I show up as my best in my circumstance? How do I show up as my biggest cheerleader? That means I get up, I stand on my own 2 feet and say, yep, that just totally happened, and I still love me anyway.
Shame is a choice, and now you have this option to give yourself permission to choose out. Thank you so much for joining us today. Marianne, high five. Thank you so much for this amazing information. Friends, in a couple of days, you're going to see Marianne back here. She's going to be talking about the effects of pornography on people and marriage and what you can do about that. Tomorrow, we've got our real estate video come your way. So if you like today's content, subscribe. We got more coming your way.